So I just thought of a couple things ad lib that I just wanted to say. One, first of all, I'd really like to thank the town of Hinton and the organizers for the tremendous hospitality here. Thank you so much. I just feel it's so warm, so thank you.
My pleasure, and it's nice to have you back in our community.
Two, I want to talk about office location. When you're hiring, almost no one shows, let's say you interview 10 people, but 2 you really feel they could do the job, the other 8 you don't. Why don't you show those 2 people where they're going to work? And it doesn't mean that you have to introduce them to everybody. You can quietly just walk them down the hall and show them the area and say, that would be your office. That's going to work. Because to me, it's almost like we hire people. It's like almost you're going to move into a house, but you don't get to see the house ahead of time, right? And I see that, bro, 75% of the time, you ask a new employee, they're saying to their partner the night before, I don't know if I'm in a cubicle or an office, and I don't know what it looks like. And I wonder why we do that. Because again, if you, in the orientation with Ada, they're almost checking out right away if they just hate where they are, right? They're going, oh, what a disappointment, right? Because you want them taking the job knowing this is what it is. So that's a thought for you to think about. The third one, yeah, it's often the supervisor isn't present at the time of orientation. Like, let's say that person shows up at 7:45. They'll say, well, HR can greet them. I'll greet them at 8:30 or 9 or 9:30. What message does it give the new employee? To me, it tells me that supervisor doesn't, what does he tell you about what he already thinks of you as his or her employee? To me, it gives a message. What do you think? Do you agree?
The message is, I'm not important.
Yeah, the message, I'm not important enough. I'm gonna make sure I keep you in your place. Like, really? And then the fourth one is, we mentioned about stay interviews. Yeah, we do stay interviews. We do them at exit interviews. Isn't that a little late? Often. The good questions that we ask, and it showed here, because when Ada asked how many people do stay interviews, pretty well nobody. You know, when you're sitting for a long time, and it's hard. Hey, you're used to moving around a lot, and you've had a lot of information thrown to you. So I'm going to change up the exercise a bit. So just bear with me again for a little bit of stuff thrown to you. But I'm kind of changing on the fly here because I think you're getting tired of being fire hoses with information given to you. But that's my call. So anyway, I want to talk about performance reviews first, and then I'll go back to strategic planning a bit and KPIs. But this is, here you are, right? So that's my best tip of the day for you right there. So take that home with you and use that. Yeah. So I was going to set the stage here, and I was going to define the performance management cycle for you, and I was going to define KPIs for you, and talk a little bit what they are. But you've got so much stuff thrown at you. And I want to talk about this a little bit because I threw this together. It's a little wobbly, but I like it. And this is about strategic planning, which is really dear to my heart. And we'll go back to that. But I want to talk about annual performance reviews first of all. So I want to ask you guys this question. This is at home, right? You're going to say, dear, you're my wife. It's time for our annual performance review. For the sake of our relationship and for the well-being of our family unit, I'd like to prepare for discussion of your strengths and weaknesses and the ways you've fallen short of reaching your goals. Also, honey, I would like for you to define some stretch goals for this coming year. Yeah. How's that going over? How's that going over? How's it going over?
Well, as long as I get to.
It doesn't sound like a friend. Yeah, you said it. And in all sincerity, I say, if that's the reaction that you're getting at home, why are we doing it at work? Honestly, why? What's the difference? It's because we have to, because it's work. And they're right to say, will you try it? Yeah, but only once, right? So reluctant to do it at work, why would you do it at home? I believe performance evaluations are, particularly rating scales, are largely subjective. Performance issues should be dealt with when? At the time. You all know that. So they're never dealt with at time of performance review. And we're doing better at that. And no one seems to feel that the forms used for performance evaluation is a good one. I haven't met anyone yet who's been happy with the performance evaluation form, really. Where I believe there's a place for there is a place for performance evaluations because it's about the conversation. And if you don't do them, you just won't go around to having some valuable conversation. And to me, that's the most important, because we get so caught up in the day-to-day workloads, and everybody has such heavy workloads these days and has so much to do. The good thing is that what I see happening in the world of HR and organizations, that we're moving away from the rating scale. We're starting to get rid of it. And to me, that's the best thing that's happened. And I'll give you reasons why. Let's say it's a rating scale of 1 to 5. And 5's really good, right? You're the director of finance, right? I'm sitting down with you. You're getting a 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, and a 2. How do you feel about your performance evaluation? And in reality, guess what right away they're saying? What's up with the 2? So guess what we spend the whole time talking about? The 2. And guess what happens when they're walking out the door? They're kicked off. It's honest, and this is reality. I'm giving you a real story, and more than once. So why do it? You just got a 5, 5, 5. You're almost the best employee there is. But instead of you're walking out the door, you're ticked off. And if I didn't tell you about the truth, I wasn't honest, maybe you aren't perfect. You know what I mean? So I say, why do it? And I mean that necessarily. I had to go into a company they asked me to come in to do a new performance management form and a system form. I says, I'll do it if I don't have to put in a rating scale. Otherwise, you got the wrong guy. To me, it's really, and this is where the KPIs come in. I really think KPIs, what the heck is that? I just say goals. To me, that's clearer and easier. But I believe that the performance management conversation that takes place should be a discussion of goals. That should be one of the key things. How did you do on the goals that you had this year? And you should know, because you've been monitoring through the year, so it's more of just a recheck. And then what are going to be your goals for this coming year? That's one of the main things. And that should fit into the strategic planning goals. And I believe that it's a conversation about a number of things. To me, these are the questions. It should be the stay questions that get asked in the performance evaluation. So you work for me, right? We're meeting. I believe these are the questions I should be asking you. What do you think? Is there any processes in our HR operations that you feel could be improved? How is your job going? Training is really important. That's where the training conversation should be going. There's my question again. What training do you need for the coming year so you can be your very best? Do you have the tools to do your job? Is there any tools that you're missing that you need? Doesn't mean you're going to get a brand new vehicle because you had one last year and I want one again this year, but it means you might not have a tool that you need to perform your job well that's limiting you, that we could, if you didn't know about it, I don't know about it because I've never asked, and you're nice enough, you don't want to cause waves so you don't say anything. I want to know how our relationship's going. And there's got to be some trust there in that. And I probably wouldn't say, am I a good boss? Because you're going to go, no, you're going to go, Court, but I might say, as your supervisor, is there anything I'm doing that I'm holding you back? Or is there anything that I could do better in the way I communicate to you, or maybe some things I'm doing? And that's to help you do the job better. I would do it from that perspective than saying, am I a good boss, right? How's your workload? I think that's really important to ask that question. Has anybody ever asked you this? How come we don't? What did you accomplish this year that you're particularly proud of? Why don't we ever ask that question? How many's had that question asked to them? Yeah, only you've had it? Good. I wish somebody would ever ask me that. What is the one thing in our area of operations that we could improve? And I'll say one because, if you said there's at least 6 we need to do, we got to be made real that we can't do all of them. There's constraints of money, budget, time. And I've noticed I'm not asking you organizational changes, because that could raise your expectations that if you told me an organizational change that need to be done, but I don't have the power to change that, right? If I'm the vice president or president, then maybe then I would ask you that question. What makes you jump out of bed in the morning? Honestly, what makes you excited about doing your job? I want to know that because I want to make sure you keep doing that. Make sure you keep doing that. What makes you want to hit the snooze button? I want to know that too, because I want to know what sucks the energy out of you. So those are the questions that I believe should be asked in performance review. So I think the form should be, 1, what are the goals that you accomplished this year? And then 2, what are the goals that you're going to be doing for this year? 3, what training do you need? And 4, I'm listing all those state questions to have with you. You notice there's nothing about rating you. I don't want to be pretending I'm God. I don't want to feel, and I don't want you to be subject to, well, I think in your communication you're a 3. Decision making you're just a 2. Oh God, I just don't want to do that. And I don't want you to be subject to that. I just don't think that's right, but that's just me. That's just my HR perspective. And I believe pay should be separate from performance reviews, because you bring pay into it. If you have an hour conversation with them, they aren't listening to the thing because they just want to know what? They're getting I've been there. I've had my boss talk to me for a whole hour. I've got 3 children. My wife isn't working. And guess what I'm just waiting to hear? Yeah, oh, good, yeah. Because I want to see if I'm getting a raise. I want to see if I get more money. It's important to me. Yeah. So, and I also feel that it's everyone's job to seek out the feedback they need to grow and improve performance accountability. I don't see that happening anymore. In the last 30 years ago, I would have employees that would walk into my office and say, how am I doing, Daryl? I don't recall in the last 15 years, and I have numerous employees work for me, that I ever had an employee walk in my office and say, Daryl, how am I doing? Am I doing a good job? Now, maybe it's because, I don't know why that is. Maybe I have a wrong style of leadership. 2, maybe I give them enough feedback that they know they're doing a good job. But 3, I also think it's because I think they see the accountability is more up to me to make sure that they're enjoying their job than their own accountability. Remember, I talked about the accountability thing of engagement. Well, you know what? It depends upon your leadership style. I don't like 360 evaluations. I won't accept them. Because I'll tell you why. I believe that I give my staff enough. Remember I said let them run the asylum and delegate to the point of, I believe I give them enough power that I don't want to have them feel they have the power to evaluate me too, on top of all the other power I give them. Do you know what I mean by that? And I'm not evaluating them too. I want to get feedback. I want to get feedback through those questions, but I don't believe they should have an opportunity for any evaluation of you. You know how they have 360 evaluations where they do that? I disagree with them. I just think they should be thrown out. There's a chance to squeal on people. I don't like them, but that's just my feeling. Because see, employees often make feedback only a supervisory responsibility. So I was going to get you to do this, but I changed my mind. So I want to talk about strategic planning, but it's a sleepy time of the day, and I figure you've had to listen so well. So I'm going to change it up. I'm going to do groups so you get a chance to work with some different people. So are you participating or are you watching? So okay, watching. Okay, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to be a group, but don't move yet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you go in group 1, and you go in group 2. Did I get everybody? Did that make sense? Just wait though, don't move yet. Did you get that, or do I got to go over that again? So just. Okay, just wait. So group 1 will be here, group 2 will be here, and group 3 will be here. No, I tried to say instead of you guys being, I'm trying to get some different people together. Yeah, so it's sort of rows, yeah. So if you don't know, we'll throw you into somewhere. So, okay, so group 1, this is group 1. Again, don't move, because I'm going to show you your exercise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're all one group. And then 1, 2, 3, I'm going to change this a bit. 4, 5, you're another group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're a third group. You go into group 1, you go into group 2. Did I do that better this time? So where's group 1 going to be? Group 1's going to be there. Don't move yet. Don't move. Group 1's going to be, don't move. Wait. Group 1's going to be there 2, and 3. Just wait. Okay, this is going to be your task. I'm doing it the opposite way. I'm getting you to do the task first. Group 1, this is the town of Hinton. You develop a strategic plan for their human resource area for 2018. There's your resource if you need any information. And I've told her about it ahead of time and it's live, so you have a resource. Group 1, I want you to come up with specific goals of what your strategic plan is going to look like. What are the specific, there's 24 areas of human resources. What are going to be your specific goals and how many are they going to be? So it could be example, we're going to do a succession plan for 2018 for the president or the town manager and the main department heads. That could be an example of goal. And there's your resource. She'll be able to help you tell you what you need. Group 2, what is the process for developing the annual strategic plan? What's the process? It's a calendar year is the same as the fiscal year. When are you going to, what time of year are you going to get the plan? Who's going to be there? How's the plan going to be improved? How are you going to implement the plan? That's the questions. And then the third one for group 3, and they're all very important. Group 3 is, what is your agenda going to look like for your strategic plan? Okay, that's group 3. There's got to be an agenda. How do you develop your strategic plan without having a special meeting to do it? And at the special meeting, what is your agenda going to look like for that? I like the conversation going on. You know what one of the other problems of the rating scale is, if they're based with compensation, you could have a department head who's a hard grader versus someone who's an easy grader, right? Back in the municipality, you can have a fire chief who keeps all his guys 5s, and you have the director of finance, he's a bit of a hard guy, and he gives all, or she, and gives all 3s, so the fire department staff get higher compensation increases than the 3 staff, yet the staff are equal to each other. That's another reason why I don't like rating scales. Now, the strategic plan, to me, I'm really a big strategic planning person. And it doesn't mean that they're not fluid. It doesn't mean that they don't change. But to me, it's about knowing where you're going. We know where we're going. That's what it's about. And I think the other thing is, then do you need, if you do a strategic plan well, do you need your buy-in of your staff? No. You know why? Because they've been part of developing the strategic plan, so there's no buy-in and there's no selling needed. That's why you need to get your employees involved with it. And it has to be fluid. All right, so let's start with group 2, just for the heck of it. So what would be your process for developing the strategic plan? Where was group 2? What was some of the main ideas that you guys came up with?
So,
well, maybe I'll hand you the box.
the box. Okay, so this is typically what we use as the process to do strategic planning. We typically start with some employee focus groups and the annual report, like the evaluations that we do for our programs and services, along with stakeholder surveys and satisfaction surveys and that, and kind of gather all that information to see exactly, what kind of information that you can pull from that, as well as gather all the staff together to talk about what the last year, what's working, what's not working, that to get a better picture of where the entire organization is going. At that time, we typically get management together who kind of create some trends that we see from all of that data. And then once we've done that, then we bring the board of directors together with the staff people to create the actual strategic plan.
Some good ideas in there. I'll show you mine. This is sort of the cycle. I looked at this as a cycle. And you can adjust this because it depends on your organization. But my process is for it that you're going to hold, if it's, remember the calendar year, fiscal year that I talked about?
Right.
That you're going to hold the strategic plan in early September. And that's the special meeting to develop the strategic plan. And the reason is that it can have what implications? It can have budget implications, right? So that usually the budget's getting looked at in October, November, so you want to hold it then, because if there's anything significant you need for it, hopefully you can get it in the budget. And then you're right, and then that plan, I say, so when I have that special meeting, usually the final plan isn't totally polished at that meeting. You have all the ideas, and I believe that's one responsibility I had. As the manager of HR, or the manager of the town of Hinton for HR, I'm writing that report up, like I'm giving it the final, and then I'll send the draft to my staff for their input, And then it has to, who does it go to for approval? In your case, it might have to go to the town manager for approval. But this is where you've had your staff involved with that you mentioned. You have your special meeting, you get all the clear ideas of what you want to do, you draft your plan up, you give it back out to your staff, you make sure they're all happy with it. Once they're all happy with it, you get it back, then you move it up to your town manager, he approves it, and then it gets implemented in early January. And then this is the importance of the implementation, and then you're doing quarterly check-ins of that plan to see how it's going. And the individuals are working on the strategic plan. So in your case, so the HR manager, you have 4 people working for her. There might be 4 people that have 4 specific individual goals. So she's got to check in quarterly with them to see how they're doing on it. And if it's a new staff, it might even be more. I think this will make more sense once I keep going. But that's sort of the process for there. And I'm using the town of Hinton as an example, but you can relate it to your nonprofits. All right. So what would the agenda look like for that meeting? The group there. Thank you.
Oh, you need the
pass
box.
you the box.
I think that the agenda would be, it would list off where you started at last year. So you'd go through what have you accomplished, what has worked, what hasn't worked, and you would slowly develop through your plan what your agenda would look like. So if you definitely identified a key problem, let's address that, and then if you'd have to vote or anything like that, that would go through it. I kind of like that stop, keep, start that you brought up as a comment. Right. I've never heard of it like that before. Yeah. But the idea of stopping and keeping, you get to individually assess every item in your agenda. Like, does it have merit or doesn't it? Brainstorming.
I really like what you said at the start about, what problems are we having and how do we address them? That's what's great about the strategic planning, because it brings everybody together to do that. Because as you know, a group making a decision will make a better decision than an individual. What percentage of the time? Probably in the 90s. That's why when I was a manager, if I could defer any decision I had to make to my team for our regular meeting, I would. And it's not because I couldn't make a decision. Why would I not? When I know we're going to come up with a better decision. Now, if something had to be made immediately because there's an emergency or something, you have to have the moxie, and I think I could do that. But why wouldn't I, when I have really smart people working for them, why wouldn't I take it to the group to make a decision? Now, it doesn't mean there's perfect 100% agreement all the time, but usually you'll come up with a consensus. And that's why you can have a team charter, you can have some guidelines that if, we pretty well all believe in it, we're going to go ahead with it. Or maybe at the meeting you'll need to make a final call as a manager, but usually you'll come up with a decision that pretty well everybody can live with. And it's going to be a better decision than if you did it yourself. Yeah, so I want to go to the agenda. So when we're looking at that meeting in early September, what's really important, where are we going to hold the meeting? It should be held where? Somewhere different than you hold your regular meeting, right? Otherwise, it's going to look like a regular meeting. I did it as a business plan for Leduc County as the assistant manager for the organization, but I did it for 5 years as an HR manager where I was developing strategic HR plans for that engineering surveying firm. And the first 3 years, it was a full day. And guess what the staff wanted after 3 years? They demanded 2 days. They felt it was so important that they said, Daryl, we need this to be 2 days. But that's you're getting away from 2 days of work. Guess what they're behind in? You're behind, right? We're having to work overtime, but they still want it because they felt that it was important. So it's really, the time of year is really important. Who is invited? Who chairs the meeting? Who does the minutes? And like I say, the first thing you might do is an environmental scan. What's happening externally that's affecting our business and HR? And then we often do external plans, but sometimes what we forget to do internal environmental scans. What's happening within our organization that's affecting what we're doing? But you see what you're doing when you get 6 people there and you ask that question, all of a sudden you're getting oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, you found that out? Who did you hear that from? You know what I mean? You really start to get to find out what's going on in the organization. Then we would go through our whole electronic file system. That would be our guide, right? And we would do it with these 3 things, exactly what you said. We do an SKS. What are we doing now that maybe we need to stop doing? Maybe we're doing something we can get rid of. Just not important. It hasn't been working. We don't have time for. What should we keep doing? What do we keep doing that we're doing? And what do we start doing that we're not doing there? So that's, to me, really important in how that meeting can be set up. See if I have any more on it. Yeah. And then really what it is, to me, it's brainstorming. And then you're determining the best ideas out of the brainstorming, and you put those into goals, and you determine who you allocate the goal task to. And then they should be developing smart reports that are smart-based. So let's say one of your goals was, we're going to develop a succession plan for 2018 for the town manager and department heads. Would I say, okay, who are we allocating that task to? And then this would be their requirement. Okay, it's your task. When can you, I'm the HR manager, right? When can you get a report back to me on what your succession plan is going to look like? Can you get a report back on a month? Does that give you enough time, or do you need 6 weeks, or can you give me back 3? But I want your report smart-based. But what's really important is that, what am I not doing? I'm not telling her exactly what the report's going to look like. That's your ownership. That's your accountability. It's yours. And now you can talk to whoever you need to talk to come back and say, this is my report. Now, after you bring that report in, we might have a team meeting, or you'd probably get feedback from the other HR people, so you get their buy-in before you come in with that report for me. But when you bring it in, I might say, can we twist this a bit? And then it's yours. Go do it. And then you're one of my great staff people. You've been here a while. I'll do quarterly check-ins with you, how you're going. So 3 months later, say, how's that going? I haven't started working on it. How come? Are you too busy, or do we need to adjust something, or you need to move because we need this done? So that's sort of how it flows from the meeting into reality. Does that make sense? I don't know. Is that helping, or are you? Whew? So, and this is what I say. You have the specific report that gets formed from each goal with a timeline, smart-based, quarterly checks in, and you report to the supervisor as required on it. Now, so that meeting's so important, I think, that special meeting, to formulate what you're going to be the main things you're going to, because remember, there's 24 areas of HR that we just do. But what specific things do we do besides the general things we need to do for the coming year? And you can take that to your nonprofit association. Okay, we do our nonprofit stuff, but what should we be doing in 2018? And doing the SKS in a special meeting. And it's worked really well. Now, where's the third group that had to come up with the specific goals? What specific goals did you come up with?
Recruitment, succession planning, and recruitment of new hires.
So the succession plan, I understand. So that would be for, who's the succession plan being done for? Is it for the town manager and the department heads?
No, we picked operators, knowledge of what maintenance.
Maintenance guys,
Yeah.
How come?
Because 30% of them are retiring in the next 10 years.
Great. You know that maintenance is crucial in the town, and you're really concerned that they're going to be leaving and you're going to be losing that knowledge base. So you feel, and that's what's terrific about their development of their specific plan, is that it is particular to the town of Hinton and their particular need. And if I was a town manager, I'd be going, yes, they got it. They understand what operations and service is about. Yeah. And the second one was recruitment. What sort of you need to do in that area? You need to recruit.
We will need to recruit new maintenance employees.
In the coming future, because there's people retiring and leaving right away. And how are we going to do that? And how are we going to find out those people with those skills that are willing to do it?
Yes.
There you are. Another terrific goal. To me, I'm going, okay, I like this. This is a group of HR people I want to work with, because they got it. Because if you don't do it, you just keep saying, geez, I wish we had more maintenance guys. Geez, I really worry about the knowledge we're going to lose. God, but you're not doing anything about it. And it's no use you keep saying that until all of a sudden they're gone 3 years later and you didn't do anything about it because you're too late. So that's an example of a few goals. Any others? Did you come up with any other goals?
Well, the goal was, along with that, was to find out the exact job description of the maintenance personnel.
I mean, that's so important. And I use a story. I say people get job descriptions, they get hired, and then they get hired. Holy God, I didn't know this job was like this. How often do you hear that, right? Because either the job description isn't clear, they haven't been explained clearly or actually what the job's really about. And it's not what they thought at all. So that's good too. So when I go to KPI, like there's your performance management cycle. You're setting your goals, you're developing your job, and then you monitor your goals and review them. You plan, act, monitor, and review. And I think Ada mentioned that. But where I want to go specifically, now KPIs, they're defined as specific goals to me that can be measurable if possible. They could be operational goals. They could be at your appraisal meeting. Remember I said we come up with goals at our appraisal meeting, but I don't even want to talk about this much because I want to go right to what I think is more important, and that is that's the strategic planning. So again, just to reemphasize, I think it's really important. I think it's really important to look at having a strategic plan for your areas of operation. And then you look at your specific cycle of how that strategic plan gets developed. That you hold it in early September. That you have that specific and special meeting for it. That you have a report that confirms what it is. That you've determined which staff are going to carry out that report. That they do that goal. That they do that goal with a report that's SMART-based. And then they implement it. And then you give them the accountability to do it, and you do some check-ins. And it fits in with their performance review. So like, remember I gave you the succession plan. So like we're monitoring it through the year, and hopefully we're on top of things. So at the end of the year, let's say you had 6 or 7 goals. They say, how'd you make out? I think, how many of those did you do? We'll just do a check-in. Well, I did 5 out of 7. Well, why didn't you hit the other 2? I just didn't have time for it. So that would be good. You know what I mean? If you says, I just didn't get around to them because it might not be as good, we might have more of a crucial conversation saying, I don't understand, right? But there's usually very good reasons why you didn't do it. And then we reset your goals again for the next year. But usually you know what those anyway because it comes out of the strategic plan for you specifically. And we do that for each of our staff members. So what can we give you a couple other ideas? If I'm having that special strategic plan, you might think who politically in our organization would be important to have at that strategic plan. So if I have a nonprofit organization, is there a certain client that you always work in? Would it be smart to have some political power from that client there, or could that be a negative thing? Because the reason I'll frame it like this. The mistake I made now looking back when I was the HR manager of the engineering surveying firm, when we did our strategic planning, I would have maybe the president come in and give an overview, or we'd have our vice president there. But I know there was another vice president who carried a lot of power in our organization. He was really interested in HR. I made the mistake of not inviting him to our strategic meeting. I should say, I want you there for the whole day. Guess why? When that meeting's over and he comes out of it, what is usually he's going to be? He's going to be your best advocate. And all of a sudden there's a senior management meeting going on and somebody's talking about something on HR. Guess who's going to be the guy that's going to stand up for you at that meeting? He will. And he'll also give you a different perspective on some things that are happening and some ideas on the strategic plan that you formulate. I talked about the process. I talked about the meeting. You know what? Like I teach communication courses, and one of the things I talk about running effective meetings, and I says, I'll throw everything out the window if I can try and have an environment where people feel it's a safe zone, that at the meetings that I'm the manager of and they attend, that they feel safe to say anything they want to say. That we have so much trust for each other that we can say anything we feel we want to say comfortably. Because we have each other's back. Nobody's going to get stabbed in the back after the meeting was over. We have respect for each other and everything that's said. Because I'll tell you what, if you've got a meeting going on and somebody's looking at the phone when you're talking, how do you feel? Or if you've got a meeting going on and somebody's doing this, how do you feel? And if you've got a meeting going on, two people start talking to each other, how do you feel? So I'm saying there's some really important body language stuff and really important things in those meetings that we got it. We're together. Because when you got the best information out, that's when you're going to come with the best decisions. And here, I'll give you one last tip and then I'm done. I had a guy, I talk about, this is a fellow who got to go to Harvard from another municipality to take a leadership course there. It cost the municipality a lot of money. I got a chance to have lunch with him. I says, tell me a few tips you got out of it. You know, we were having lunch together. So he's a VP at another municipality. He says, this is one good one. It says, if you're the boss in a meeting, you shouldn't give your opinion right away when you introduce an idea. Because right away, what do the staff do now? Yeah, it shuts them down. So, okay, do I disagree with my boss, and how do I do this without ticking him off? And it shuts him down. So he says, even if you have some strong feelings about it, you should say, what do you guys think? And then you'll have your time to give your feeling, unless it's something where there's a hill to die on. That's the only difference. If I'm coming in almost being prescriptive, saying, you know what, on this issue, this is what I feel, and you know what do you guys think? But it's almost going, I'm just making sure you're agreeing with me because it's going to be the way it is, right? And that shouldn't happen very often, but you got it. But most time, I don't want to do that because it changes the whole dynamics of really the decision that we come to. So again, I'm a big component of strategic planning because people think they know where they're going. People really don't know where you're going because it's in your head. And then there's no buy-in of the staff. If they're a part of it, there's no selling needed. But you got to remember, it could be fluid. It could be something happens in the year. Like that's exactly it. We had our strategic plan. All of a sudden, the oil prices got cut in half. We threw our whole agenda out the window. We were just dealing with terminating, laying off, and firing staff. That was our goal. It was horrible, but that was it. So, anyway, any last-minute questions? I know it's getting tough. Hey, it's 3:30. You've had a lot of stuff thrown at you, but thanks very much for being so respectful. And it was kind of close to my heart to come back to the town of Hinton here. And darn, I wish I had those signs up there said the home of Kellen Rubis, but maybe in another lifetime. So.